everyone, welcome back to the next episode of Winnie's Travels. In this episode, I'll be going over the second step to my process of fixing the exterior walls of Winnie and getting ready for the insulation, which you can see behind me. And so I'll just be going over how I fixed the actual cracks and holes in the fiberglass exterior itself with fiberglass resin and cloth. So yeah, let's get started. All right, so now I'm going to go over the fiberglass process. So this is definitely something I did not really enjoy, and it's an annoying material to work with. But thankfully I'm done now, and I've done all of it, and there we are, and it worked. So, you know, that's that. But basically, all you need for this is Bondo fiberglass resin and Bondo fiberglass cloth. This is literally a cloth. It looks like fabric. It's woven together. It is glass, so you don't want to touch it with your bare hands. And also, you better wear a respirator because this stuff is not good for you. It's not like a good material to work with, and it smells bad. Anyways, so all you need is those two products. You can find them like next to each other in Home Depot or Lowe's or a place like that. And this little can will come with a plastic lid, and inside of that plastic lid there's a little tiny container or vial of hardener, and you follow the instructions on the back and you mix those two things together, and then and you mix them in small batches because it'll harden, so you want to like work with a little bit of the material at a time. And then you've got something to paint over the cloth. Basically the cloth is there so that you have something to basically fill a hole. Like this here was a hole, and now you can hear I'm knocking on it. It is hard fiberglass. You can still see the light coming through because it's not like, yeah, it's see-through because it's just glass. So it is still see-through. And same here. The reason this wall isn't see-through is because there's a cork underlayment. So, but probably if there wasn't any cork here, the fiberglass would actually be see-through there too. But yeah, you just follow the instructions on the back. One tip that I found is it says you should use like a tongue depressor, like those little wooden sticks or something like that, to stir up the mixture. And then you use a chip brush, which they go for 98 cents at your hardware store. And then you use that to paint the mixture onto the fiberglass cloth. But I actually just used the back end of the chip brush to stir the mixture. It's essentially the same thing, and you're gonna get super messy regardless of what you do. So honestly, the fact that then the other end of your brush is sticky really doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things, because you are gonna be a complete mess. Definitely do not wear your favorite gloves to do this, because you will get this fiberglass stuff all over you, and it's so sticky, and it's like such a pain, and you just have to like even if you're like the most tediously neat person, you are going to get this stuff all over you. The only other thing I want to talk about is how I used wood. Basically, I used thin layers of wood to secure these larger sections. Like you can see here, this is a cork piece. This actual entire section is a hole, or was a hole, and now there's fiberglass on the outside here. But this is essentially a piece of like little thin cork that I used to have a backing, because this fiberglass cloth is obviously just cloth. So if you have a huge hole and you just put this cloth on it and try and paint over, it's just gonna fall over. Like it's just gonna fall in. You can't like paint on something that has no surface, which is what I learned. So you need something to back it up with. So I used that stuff, and that worked out pretty well. Here is what the fiberglass looks like from the outside. So right now we're looking at a spot where I had to use more fiberglass, and then a tiny little spot where I used less of it. So what I did is, for the larger sections, I did about 4 to 5 layers, sometimes even 6 if it felt like it wasn't structurally sound enough already, although it is admittedly pretty hard to tell until it has hardened. Fortunately, once it's hardened, it says on the can that you can add more layers. You just have to sand it down first, similarly to how before you add the first layer, you sand down the whatever you're working on. And then for the small little sections where I was just like covering a single screw hole, I just did 2 layers. Maybe sometimes 3, depending on how large the hole was. So it was, you know, kind of just depending on what I was doing. And just by sort of winging it, it came out, or it worked really, really well. And I haven't had any leaking problems with the fiberglass. The only issue is that I have found is that I did find some leaking with the huge sections that I worked on, and I'll show you pictures of those. But those sections, I've had some leaking problems, and I honestly can't really tell like where the water is coming from. I think it's just because with a section that large, I should have done like 10 layers or something like that. And I only did 4 or 5, so I might have to either add more layers to those areas or use a different material on the inside to insulate the interior instead of the outside, you know, because it is hard as a rock, but I just am still having leaking problems in those areas. So not really sure why that happened, but realistically, it's probably because with an area that large, you need to do a lot more layers, but the product is, you know, it adds up over time in terms of price. So I was trying to limit the amount that I used. So yeah, that's pretty much it for that.
Okay, here you can see all of the fiberglass work that I did on the passenger side of Winnie. Of particular note on this side is all of the screw holes that I had to cover up on the top near the roof where the awning used to be. It covered kind of the entire span of Winnie, and I individually covered over every screw hole because I did remove the awning as it was causing a lot of leaking problems, and it was super old and pretty much just ugly and falling apart. I had a lot less work to do on the driver's side, but the main things I had to cover up were some cracks and then also the holes where I installed the 2 new access doors.
Thanks for watching, everyone. That's all for now. And if you're interested in staying in touch with Winnie's travels, you can subscribe to my channel over here, or you can get started with the first episode over here. See y'all next time.